If you are over 60 and life finally feels stable, you might believe you are safe. Your career is behind you, your children are grown, your bank account, your health, your daily rhythm, all finally under control. So you relax. You tell yourself the hard part is over. Here is a normal, comforting sign so many men your age point to. I feel calm now. I feel settled. Surely that means I am protected. But feeling calm does not mean you are protected. In fact, that very calm is often the exact moment the real threat quietly slips in. Here is the truth almost nobody says out loud. The biggest threat to your happiness right now is not money. It is not your health. It is not even loneliness itself. It is something far quieter. Something that looks like a gift and feels like relief, but slowly drains the very peace you spent decades building. It is the belief that a new romantic partner will finally make you whole. Stay with me, because what I am about to say may sound harsh at first. But if you let it sink in, it could save you years of stress, regret, and quiet exhaustion. By this stage of life, you already know what matters. Not status, not proving yourself, not chasing excitement for its own sake. What matters now is peace, freedom, the quiet, unhurried ownership of your own days. And yet so many mature men fall into the same trap. They assume that meeting someone new will automatically restore what feels missing. Often, it does the opposite. It brings obligation dressed up as love. This mistake never arrives with a warning label. It sneaks in disguised as something wonderful, something flattering, something that feels like exactly what you needed. To understand how, we need to follow it, one domino at a time. Because each stage quietly sets up the next, and by the time you notice the pattern, several dominoes have already fallen. In your 20s or even your 40s, you had energy to burn. Arguments, compromises, emotional back and forth, these barely touched you. You bounce back by morning, sometimes within hours. That energy is no longer unlimited. At this stage of life, it behaves like a bank account you can no longer refill overnight. Spend recklessly, and the balance does not recover the way it once did. And this is where the trap begins. A new relationship rarely announces itself as work. It arrives as excitement, attention, someone finally interested in you again, laughing at your jokes, asking about your day. But within weeks, something shifts. You find yourself managing her moods, smoothing over small conflicts before they grow into something larger, apologizing simply for wanting a quiet evening alone. Slowly, without either of you naming it, the relationship becomes a second job, unpaid, unspoken, and strangely exhausting. Think of a man named David, 64, recently retired. He described it this way: I used to come home to silence and it felt empty. Now I come home to questions. Where were you? Who did you talk to? Why were you late? He told himself this was simply what closeness feels like. But closeness should not feel like a checkpoint. You tell yourself you can just walk away if it gets too draining. But by the time you notice the exhaustion, you are already tangled in routines, shared plans, and quiet expectations. Walking away no longer feels simple. And exhaustion is only the beginning, because once your emotional energy is spent, something far more concrete starts to erode: your financial security. Here is the uncomfortable part most people avoid saying directly. At 30, a financial mistake can be corrected. You rebuild. You have decades ahead. At 60 or 70, your resources are often fixed. They exist to protect your future, not to be tested by trial and error. The trap rarely begins with a dramatic request for money. It begins small: a dinner here, a thoughtful gift there, covering a bill just this once because it's only fair since you have more. Each gesture feels generous, even romantic. But slowly, generosity quietly turns into expectation, and expectation eventually turns into obligation. Sometimes it grows in a different direction, not requests for cash, but requests for your time and your name. Co-signing something, adding her to an account just to make things easier. Small steps, each one reasonable on its own. The fear of being alone again can make you look away from these warning signs. You tell yourself it is not a big deal, just this once. But emotions fade, bank statements do not. And once the romantic fog lifts, the financial consequences remain long after the feelings do. What felt like generosity in the moment can quietly become a decade of consequences. You might think the solution is simple. Just be more careful with money and everything else will be fine. But money is only one currency being spent here. There is another resource being quietly taken from you. Something even harder to earn back once it's gone. Your time. Before a new partner enters your life, your schedule belongs entirely to you. You wake when you want, you golf, read, travel, or sit in silence without asking permission from anyone. Once a relationship begins, every decision suddenly requires negotiation. Where to eat, when to travel, whether tonight is your night or our night. Even something as small as a Tuesday afternoon nap can turn into a conversation. After decades of answering to employers, to children, to obligations you did not choose, you have earned the right to live at your own pace. Trading that hard-won independence for temporary comfort is a far more expensive deal than it first appears. And unlike money, lost time can never truly be refunded. So why do so many mature men make this trade anyway, even when part of them senses the cost? The answer lies in something deeply human and deeply misunderstood. After retirement, after children leave home, after decades of being needed constantly, many men experience a quiet drop in attention. Suddenly, almost nobody needs them the way they once did. The phone rings less. The house feels quieter than it used to. So when someone new shows genuine interest, it feels intoxicating. It flatters the ego in a way almost nothing else can. But here is the contrarian truth you need to hear clearly. Attention is not the same as respect. If a woman showers you with compliments, remembers small details, and seems endlessly fascinated by your stories, that does not automatically mean she values you. It may simply mean she is skilled at making people feel valued for reasons that have nothing to do with you specifically. Attention can be temporary, self-serving, or even strategic. Respect is steady, consistent, and asks nothing in return. Respect looks quiet. It looks like someone who does not need constant reassurance, who supports your independence instead of slowly narrowing it, who is comfortable when you spend an evening with old friends instead of her. When attention feels good enough, men start ignoring red flags. They tolerate behavior they would never have accepted decades earlier, simply out of fear of becoming invisible again. If this kind of honest decoding of behavior resonates with you, consider staying close to this channel. This is exactly the territory we explore here, calmly and without judgment. But fear of invisibility is not the only illusion at play. There is a deeper one hiding underneath it. Loneliness itself is often misdiagnosed. Many mature men assume the ache they feel is proof they need a partner. In reality, what they are missing is far broader than romance. It is purpose, structure, new challenges, a sense of contribution, the feeling of being useful to something larger than an empty afternoon. When you place the entire weight of that need onto one other person, you create pressure no relationship can survive. You are asking someone else to solve a problem only you can actually fix. Picture it like handing someone a bucket and asking them to fill an ocean. No matter how willing they are, the task itself is impossible, and eventually, resentment grows on both sides. The wiser approach flips the order completely. Build a full life first. Only then decide who deserves a place inside it. And this is not simply emotional advice. It is physical survival advice, whether people realize it or not. In your younger years, your body could absorb stress with remarkable ease. Sleepless nights, arguments, emotional turbulence, you recovered by morning, almost without effort. A rough week barely left a mark. Your nervous system no longer works that way. Chronic stress at this stage does not just feel uncomfortable, it becomes measurable, visible in numbers your doctor can point to. Elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep, a steady erosion of daily energy. Even small recurring tension can quietly chip away at your resilience, week after week. Ordinary relationship friction, the kind you once shrugged off easily in your 30s, can now translate directly into your long-term health. A single argument at 25 cost you an uncomfortable evening. The same argument now can cost you a restless week. Protecting your mental peace is no longer simply a comfort. At this stage, it is closer to a matter of physical survival. And there is one final domino still standing, quieter than all the others, yet perhaps the most costly of all. The slow disappearance of who you actually are. It rarely happens through one dramatic argument. It happens through hundreds of tiny surrenders. You stop mentioning an opinion just to avoid tension. You quietly abandon a hobby because it never quite fits her schedule. You rearrange your home, your routines, your Sunday mornings, piece by piece. Maybe you used to spend Saturday mornings fishing, or fixing something in the garage, or simply reading in silence with coffee. Slowly, those hours get filled with errands, visits, obligations that were never truly yours. Each surrender feels small, even loving in the moment. But add them together over months, and the man you spent decades becoming starts fading into someone unfamiliar, shaped more by avoidance than by choice. Ask yourself honestly, could you list right now 3 things that are genuinely yours, untouched by anyone else's preferences? If the list feels shorter than it used to, that is worth noticing. So if attention is not respect, and romance is not automatic happiness, and constant compromise is not love, what actually is the answer here? The answer lives in a completely different way of thinking, one used quietly by the people who seem genuinely at peace in later life. Their strength has almost nothing to do with wealth or appearance. It comes from something far rarer, real selectivity. They stop asking, "Do I like her?" That question flatters the ego, but rarely protects it. Instead, they ask something sharper. Does this relationship make my life calmer, or does it make it heavier? That single shift in questioning changes everything. It moves the focus away from chemistry and flattery and towards something far more reliable, the honest, lived experience of daily life together. These self-sufficient people also refuse to place all their emotional needs onto one romantic partner. They build genuine friendships. They join communities. They protect meaningful hobbies as fiercely as they once protected their careers. Some join a hiking group. Others volunteer, mentor younger people, or simply keep a standing weekly dinner with old friends. None of it depends on romance to feel meaningful. Romance becomes one option among many good things in life, never the entire foundation holding everything else up. They guard their personal energy the same disciplined way they once guarded their income, refusing to overspend it on people who quietly drain them. And this single mindset shift is the real key, the one piece nothing else in this video can replace. Because once you protect your peace deliberately, everything downstream begins to change. Within about a week of applying this thinking, you start noticing which people genuinely energize you and which ones quietly exhaust you. You start paying attention to how you feel after time together, not just during it. Within about a month, your boundaries feel less like conflict and more like simple, calm clarity. Saying "not tonight" stops feeling like an apology. And within about 90 days, something remarkable tends to happen. The right kind of connection, if it appears at all, arrives without draining your finances, your health, or your identity. It adds to your life instead of quietly subtracting from it. Remember that opening question? The one that quietly threatens so many people in their 60s and beyond? The real danger was never being alone. The real danger was outsourcing your peace to someone else and hoping they would guard it as carefully as you would. True happiness after 60 is not found in matching society's romantic script. It is found in freedom and in genuine peace with yourself. Relationships were never meant to be emergency life rafts. They were meant to add richness to a life that is already steady on its own. So here is the only rule worth remembering. Anyone in your life should either bring you real peace or their presence is costing you far more than it appears. Now I want to hear directly from you. At this stage of life, what matters more to you? Romance or genuine personal peace? Tell me in the comments below. And if this perspective gave you something valuable to sit with today, stay close. There is more of this quiet, honest decoding waiting for you here.